afternoon. The OBA is making a lot of promises about how they will fix our economy, but how can we trust them? Time and time again, they have failed to deliver on their promise to create jobs in Bermuda. Instead of creating jobs for Bermudians, they've looked out for their friends and helped the elite continue to prosper while the needs of the rest of Bermudians have been ignored. In 2013, they promised to create 2,000 jobs over the next 5 years. So they gave tax breaks, concessions, and other deals to enrich the wealthy and the privileged to help them make more money. But what did the average Bermudian get? There are fewer jobs in Bermuda today than there were 5 years ago. The true proof of the OBA's failed leadership is in the data that shows that when the PLP left office in 2012, there were just over 35,000 jobs in Bermuda. When the OBA leaves office later this month, there are just over 32,000. In 2012, there were 11,600 Bermudian men working. In 2015, almost 700 fewer Bermudian men were working. In 2015, now in their third year of government, the OBA did not even try to hide who they cared about. In 2013, there were 4 landscaper work permits, 47 in 2014, but 129 in 2015. 129 work permits were given in a single sector, one that is not so specialized that Bermudians cannot lead it. In April 2017, the government announced that even in the hotel industry, one of the pillars of our economy, the amount of non-Bermudian employees increased while the number of Bermudian employees decreased. Over the last 8 years, the total number of jobs in Bermuda has dropped by 17%. How can we, or you, believe the OBA's promises when they have failed Bermudians repeatedly over the last 5 years? In 2016, our economy created just 56 new jobs. In 2016, our economy created just 56 new jobs. That shows the extent of the failure of the OBA government. How can they ask for your vote with a record like that? It shows how out of touch they are with the people and the needs of the Bermudian people today. While jobs have disappeared for Bermudians, the OBA has been successful in creating jobs for one group, non-Bermudians. Over the last 3 years, while jobs for Bermudians in the hotel industry have fallen, the number of non-Bermudian jobs in the hotel industry has increased. The OBA's policies have hurt Bermudians and are causing discrimination against Bermudian workers. In fact, their record on Bermudian jobs ties into their record on public education. Believe it or not, do you know which jobs suffered the largest losses? The job losses were so large they pulled down the other employment statistics. Please note that jobs that suffered the largest decline in 2015 were public school teachers. There were 753 teachers in 2014 and 679 in 2015. This comes from the Department of Statistics. Not only did the OBA lie about creating Bermudian jobs, they lied about protecting Bermudian jobs. They lied about creating more jobs in the PLP. In fact, they lied about creating jobs, period. The stagnant growth of our economy is just another sign of their failure to lead and failure to govern. Bermudians can't afford another 5 years of OBA leadership. Bermudians deserve better than they've gotten from the OBA. They deserve a government that will make promises that they can actually keep and do what is right for all Bermudians, not just a select few. A government that will work to create jobs and opportunities, and most importantly, a government that they can trust to keep their promises. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the press. As my colleague has said, there is a record that the OBA must live by. Bermudians have had to stand by and watch 85 telecommunications technicians land in the middle of the night and work for months and months. Indeed, these were temporary work permits, but they were work permits nonetheless. Dozens of foreign waiters and waitresses, we have been made to understand, were brought in to serve food and drink at America's Cup Village while Bermudians were and remain unemployed. We have been made to understand that some of the service at America's Cup were in fact British university students who were very fortunate that their summer job just happened to be in Bermuda this year. While that was indeed a fantastic opportunity for those students, we know that there were Bermudian university students who were and remain unemployed. As far as Bermudian employment is concerned, our economy is stagnant. Bermudians are suffering from the lack of jobs and the lack of opportunity. Once in government, the PLP will move quickly and aggressively to address these problems and begin getting Bermudians back to work. The PLP will amend the Employment Act, an act which we enacted in 2000, to ensure that no Bermudian is unemployed due to quote-unquote overqualification. You know the story. A Bermudian accountant, unemployed for 2 years, finally gets shortlisted for a bookkeeper's job. And at the end of the interview, however, they are told that they are overqualified, and we hear a foreign bookkeeper is hired instead. We say those days are over. We will also review the industries that have historically required the most work permits. With the exception of the international business sector, which has certain considerations to allow global companies to attract global talent, the PLP will consider all other industries and identify what makes foreign labor more attractive or more qualified, so that over the next year, we can put in place plans to sustainably educate, train, and retool our people. And we will address head-on the often talked about issue of work ethic, the concept of giving value for a day's work, which is a critical underpinning for a successful, sustainable Bermudian workforce. One of our first priorities will be to review the Job Corps program to see how it was implemented and how it can be improved. Providing training to young people, especially those in high-risk situations, is vital. We need to focus on giving those youth the skills needed to build careers so that they have the capacity to not only find jobs, but to create jobs and to keep jobs. That is the key to a healthy future for our island and our communities. We are committed to making sure that all Bermudians have the skills they need to succeed. As a result, the PLP will immediately increase the funding available for the Bermuda College to highlight the various ways one can train and retrain at the campus. We will greatly enhance the college's already successful profession and career education department, the PACE program. One of the most urgent elements of the jobs recovery will be a user-friendly and innovative website, updated quarterly, showing the sectors where the most work permits are used and how many are due to expire within 18 months. And certainly where that data will be captured so that we understand the usage of the website. This initiative, in collaboration with education and workforce development, will assist students to make the best educational choices possible for their careers. In that same effort, we will review our tax structure to identify any levers to incentivize Bermudian employment. The PLP will make Bermudians the priority so that they attain the job opportunities they need to have a good quality of life. Finally, we will work with key leaders and stakeholders to review the National Workforce Development Plan to assess the long-term changes that we need in order to grow our economy on a sustainable basis. This group will be empowered to make a wholesale review of government policies and ensure that we are best utilizing the skills of our workers while creating an environment for employers to grow and create jobs. That review team will be asked to make recommendations on the changes needed across our country and our economy to create good jobs for Bermudians. We're eager to get Bermuda working again. The unfulfilled promises that played on anxious, unemployed Bermudians in 2012 will not work in 2017. Progress is a choice. Job creation is a choice. And the prioritization of Bermudians is also a choice. Whether we give our children a future of more or a future of less is also a choice. Bermuda works with the PLP. Thank you.
You're going to review policies to make sure people can get jobs. It's election time. Shouldn't you have already reviewed those policies and come to the lecture with an actual policy?
I think you'll be aware that we'll be launching our platform later this week, and then we'll be going more in depth with some of the solutions that we're putting forward. But I think it's also important to note that as the opposition, while we are capable of reviewing many of the policies in place, we also have to look at the long-term ramifications of our decisions. It's easy to put out just suggestions willy-nilly, but we have made a commitment that we will make promises we know we can keep, and I think that's why at this point I advise you to stay tuned for the platform launch.
And I'd also say to that, one of the things that we want the public to be aware of and that we are committed to is that, and our leader has said it again and again, is that there is no party for good ideas. So we intend to aggressively pursue all of the talent and ideas that could come to bear on creating better policy. And we understand it's not a bipartisan road. So in that, and people will hear opportunities and to stay tuned, to bring your talent, to bring your ideas, and it may be across the floor, but we intend to be a government that will embrace any good idea that's going to move our country forward.
Well, you talked about 129 work permits that were not, I can't remember your wording, but what were you talking about there? You said there were 129 work permits granted in some sector. Which sector was that?
Yep, that was in the landscaping sector.
All right.
Yep. Part of the challenges that we found and identified is that there are some inherent tax advantages to hiring non-Bermudians, that even if you pay Bermudians the same salary that non-Bermudians are willing to work for, the inherent advantages create a disincentive to hiring Bermudians. And part of our reform is identifying all of those advantages, not just the tax and policy ones, but at every aspect, where we can make sure that a Bermudian gets a fair first shot at every opportunity in our own country.
And you've done this in nice.
Oh yes, oh yes. Oh yeah. We've talked about it in our Vision 2025 in the previous budgets when we talked specifically about the areas of the taxation that create disincentives for hiring Bermudians.
What do you all think about the baby bonus that the OBA is
well,
suggesting?
it's funny you would talk about that because that is a very old idea. And when you look at the OBA's record, you have to wonder why the sudden change in interest in children, as they've shown no interest in children whatsoever in the past 5 years. It's an interesting premise. I think that we'd have to ask how they're going to pay for it. We'd have to ask what is the intended result. But again, with their record of honesty, or they're being at war with the truth more frequently than not, I don't know if we could believe anything they'd say at this point. What's a promise from the OBA really worth?
Is it a good idea in principle?
I'd have to look at the details of it. I mean, I'm familiar with an idea that was presented that this is probably based on, that was back in 2003. But that was an idea that was floated at a period when our economy was booming and we had the resources to do that. Is it means tested? Does this mean that grant-giving children would get the same amount that your children would get? Does this mean that it will go to just anyone, including people who are born of PRCs? You know, there's deep questions, and I think that they are obligated to answer, not us.
Are there any other questions? Thank you so much. Have a great day.